Today I'm going to talk about road dust, heavy metal toxicity. Heavy metals are present in Earth's crust alongside other metals, minerals, and organic matters. Some examples include mercury, lead, arsenic, chromium, and copper. Heavy metals are defined as heavy in comparison to water, meaning that they have a higher molecular weight than 18 grams per mole. Since they cannot be degraded or destroyed, heavy metals become toxic when they are not metabolized by the body and accumulate in the soft tissues, which will cause some health issues. Some heavy metals are essential nutrients which are required for the biochemical and physiological functions. For example, iron and copper are minerals that are needed to maintain the basic body functions. Main purpose for iron is to carry oxygen in the hemoglobin for red blood cells throughout bodies so cells can produce energy. Copper can help the body to form collagens and absorb ions. Most common heavy metals are shown in red. They are highly toxic even in minor quantities. Heavy metals can come from both natural sources and human sources. The natural processes include volcanic eruption, sea salt spray, forest fire, and rock weathering. Anthropogenic processes include industrial agriculture, mining, and traffic. People are exposed to heavy metals in a few different ways, mostly through drinking water or food. Soluble metallic salts can dissolve in water systems such like streams, underground waters. Crops can uptake metals from contaminated soil. Meat and fish products may contain bioaccumulated metals. When people are drinking water or eating food that are contaminated, the heavy metal can get into people's digestion system. However, the scientist has found that heavy metal uptake in human body is likely to be significantly higher via respiratory exposure than ingestion. Exposure to heavy metals will cause health problems, which include damage or reduce mental and central neuron functions, lower energy levels in our body, damage lungs, kidney, liver, and blood composition. Long-term exposure will also cause Parkinson's disease, muscular dystrophy, and repeated long-term contact with some metals or their compound may cause cancer. The main threats to human health from heavy metals are associated with exposure to lead, mercury, and arsenic. These metals have been extensively studied, and their effect on human health regularly reviewed by international bodies, such like WHO. Urban has been recognized as major source and sink for contaminants. Heavy metals can accumulate in road dust through atmospheric deposition. Road dust have often been used as an indicator of heavy metal pollution in our environment. From this diagram, traffic-related exhaust is a major contributor for road dust. The heavy metal in dust can get into our body through respiration system. Now let's look at the heavy metals in the road dust soil. Traffic is a primary source of elevated levels of metals in urban environmental media, such as roadside soil and street dust. Metals are emitted from traffic in the form of tailpipe emission as well as through releasing related to the wear and tear of automotive components, such as brakes, tires, and catalytic converters. The suspension of metal-enriched road dust due to automotive activities can also be a major source of roadside contamination, especially along roads with higher traffic volume and proportions of heavyweight vehicles. Although urban soils are a known sink for metals originated from traffic, especially along roads, there remain large data gaps regarding metal bioavailability and their uptake by plants. So, the guest speaker did a research to examine the fate and uptake of traffic-related metals in soil and plants cultivated in roadside environment. This is the sampling site of the research. Oregano, beets, and eggplants were planted at 4 locations in Toronto, with varying level of traffic. The objective of this study are threefold. First, to measure metal concentrations in soil and plant tissues cultivated in locations with varying volume of traffic. Second, to compare variability in metal uptake between plants grown in freshly remediated soil and those grown in aged field soils, as an indicator of bioaccessibility. Third, compare metal concentrations between bog soils and the plant rhizosphere of cultivated plants to assess differences in their composition and potential for uptake. Heavy metals found in Site 3 with highest concentration are Mn, Cu, and Cr, and the least concentration are Co, As, Sb, and Cd. The Cu and Cr concentration ranges taken in May versus August are wild, which suggests that their presence in the immediate roadside environment may be highly variable as a function of seasonally related traffic conditions. For example, more rainfall in the spring can wash off some heavy metals and reduce the concentration. Most trace metals were found to have elevated concentrations in plant rhizosphere of sampled eggplants. Root zones has very different physical-chemical characteristics compared to bog soil, which can contribute to the enhanced bioaccessibility of elements, such as Cd. The root rhizosphere, characterized by a higher level of microbial activities and chemical exchange between root and microorganisms, typically has a higher concentration of organic substance, which can strongly influence metal speciation and uptake by plants. For instance, plants can change the pH in root rhizosphere by releasing hydrogen or hydroxide in response to availability of neat cation and anions, and pH plays a strongest role in influencing enrichment process in the plant rhizosphere, most notable for Cd. Road dust samples collected at the medium traffic location, Site 3, were enriched with a number of trace metals that have been associated with traffic-related activities. Street dust was observed to be enriched with Cr, Mn, Ni, and Pb. At Site 3 is located directly at the curbside of a traffic intersection. Brick lining are the most likely source of elevated concentrations of these elements measured in street dust. Breaking has been demonstrated to result in the release of copper, which is now used in place of asbestos, to minimize heat production. Breaking lining have also been identified as a source of Sb, Cd, Cr, and Ni. Cd is also released from various other automotive components that contain this element as a stabilizer. Wheel weights may be another source of Sb, which can also contain this element in notable amounts. The erosion of road material due to driving behaviors and conditions, tire wear and tear has been reported to be an important source of Cr, Mn, Cu, Pb, and Ni emissions along roadside. The resuspension of soil previously contaminated with lead from leaded fuel use has been identified as a primary source of lead enrichment in many urban areas. Traffic and related driving activities is the most likely source of the lead enrichment measured for road dust. The use of leaded wheel weight attached to tire rims, which have been observed to fall off along roadsides due to driving behavior and road condition, where they are rapidly abraded, can be a significant source of lead contamination along roads. Other likely source of lead is the past use of leaded gasoline. The result contributes to two factors. First, Prepared soil mix containing compost and fertilizers, as was used here, were shown to contain elevated levels of various metals. Second, metal bioaccessibility is likely enhanced in fresh soil that have not been subject to leaching, as the metals are present in the form more easily taken up by plants. Minerals in aged soil are predicted to be more tightly bound by the mineral matrix and have a lower solubility and mobility. The application of organic-rich materials such as a compost is often recommended to reduce the mobility and bioaccessibility of metals. While organic matters has been shown to stabilize trace elements in soils, the result indicates that soil amendment and remediation measure may also introduce contamination that are more available for uptake by plants. Now let's move on to the heavy metals in airborne particulate matters. Ambient particulate matters is a diverse class of air pollution. Exposure to ambient PM, especially fine PM with a dynamometer of 2.5 micrometers, have been consistently related to increase in mortality and morbidity. PM 2.5 means the particle diameter is 2.5 micrometer, and PM 10 is just for the particle has a 10 micrometer diameters. Respiratory infection has been found to increase significantly among individuals following exposure to higher level of PM, especially in elderly. Toxicity of PM relates to particle size and strongly associated with composition. The worldwide production of platinum group elements has steadily risen over the last 3 decades to meet demand for use in wide variety of pharmaceutical, industrial, chemical, and electrical applications. In particular, the metal platinum, palladium, and rhodium has become valuable commodities. One of the important uses of these 3 elements is automobile exhaust catalyst, which can convert noxious gases emission into more benign forms. As a result of their use in North America since 1976 and in Europe since the 1980s, automotive emission of NOx and carbon monoxide and various hydrocarbons have been greatly reduced. Here is a diagram shows how the catalytic converters works. In the 3-way catalyst, RH preferentially absorbs NOH, while PT and PD split oxygen. The 3 metals are embedded into a porous material, such as aluminum oxide, to increase the catalyst surface area. The metals then catalyze reactions with carbon monoxide and volatile hydrocarbons to produce nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and water. Initially, PT and PD were used to reduce hydrocarbon and carbon monoxide emissions, since RH has also been used in various combinations and ratio with PT and PD to reduce NOx emission. PD has been used in increasingly greater amount over PT as it is cheaper and more chemically stable, leading higher concentration of this metal in the environment over time. While the use of catalytic converters has improved general air quality, they have also become a primary source of PT, PD, and RH into the environment, along with the particulate matter. The amount and rate of PGE emission appear to be dependent on the speed of driving, type and age of the catalyst, and engine type. Significant proportion of ambient PGE has been found to occur in the PM10 and PM2.5 fractions and therefore pose a possible health risk, especially to vulnerable populations. Studies demonstrated that PGE uptake in the human body is likely to be significantly higher via respiratory exposure versus ingestion. Ambient PM with an aerodynamic diameter of less than 10 micrometer, especially the PM2.5 fraction, has been associated with an increase in morbidity and mortality. PGE pose a potential health risk given the fact that most of the PGE in air samples has been found to be fall in this fraction. Highest Pt value were generally associated with a very fine fraction, which can penetrate deep into lungs and elicit a toxic effect due to their greater surface reactivity and potential to induce the production of reactivity oxygen species. Acute toxic effects of PGE are depend on metal speciation, with soluble compounds being the most toxic. Previous studies already demonstrate that PGE can affect cellular fluidity, membrane integrity, and permeability and interfere with protein synthesis, inhibit mitochondrial enzyme production, and alter the structure of mitochondrial lipid bilayer. As the blood-brain barrier is not fully developed in humans at birth, it is possible that PGEs are able to penetrate the brain of babies, which elevated the potential for these metals to induce neuron developmental effects. So exposure to PGE are higher harmful for babies. Regarding to the environmental behavior and bioavailability of PT, PD, and RH, PGE may be pose a greater health risk because of the following three reasons. First, despite the fact of PGE may be emitted primarily in the metallic state, they may be easily mobilized and solubilized by various compounds commonly present in the environment. This serves to increase their bioavailability and hazard potential. Second, PGE may be transformed into more toxic species upon uptake by organisms. The presence of chloride in lung food, for instance, may lead to the formation of halogenated PGE complexes that have a greater potential to induce cellular damage. Third, a significant proportion of PGE is present in the finer particle size fraction of airborne PM, which have been found to be associated with increasing morbidity and mortality. Here is my references for the presentation, and thank you for watching.